On Friday, a bunch of middle school and high school students confronted Dianne Feinstein at her office to demand she back the Green New Deal.
Some scientists have said that we have 12 years to turn this around.
Well, it's not going to get turned around in 10 years. What we can do,
Senator, if this doesn't get turned around in 10 years, you're looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with these consequences.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people.
But for once, an adult wasn't having it. Feinstein spoke truth to toddlers.
because there's no way to pay for it. I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected. I just ran. I was elected by almost 1 million vote plurality. And I know what I'm doing. So, you know, maybe people should listen a little bit.
Oh, my goodness. She's about 5 minutes away from telling them to get out of her yard. But what does that remind you of? When Feinstein says to the kids, there's no way to pay for it, she sounds exactly like a Republican talking to a Democrat. Finally, the sketcher is on the other foot. Now, I'm sure some people thought Feinstein was too mean to the kids, who were no doubt parroting slogans programmed by adults who see the kids as conduits for the latest left-wing software. But the truth hurts, and if you're going to use a kid as a political shield, you put them in the way of the truth. More important, if you don't feel a little gross when you see kids used as props, there's something wrong with you. Mind you, these kids are pushing a plan that bans fossil fuels in 10 years. Do you think in a few years they'll feel the same way when they get their learner's permit? But don't blame them. It's the parents, the teachers, the activists. They know that their untenable political positions require propagandized pawns to survive. And you got to get the pawns when they're young, and then hope and pray they don't grow out of your stupid ideas. I am going to, Jesse, I'm going to start off and say that this works on both sides. I can't stand kids on the left, brats on the right. Do you remember?
You can't stand kids.
I can't stand kids. Do you remember Jonathan Crone? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
This kid was all over Fox. Was this
spoke at CPAC.
Yeah, he was like 13, right-winger. He was just, they were trying to get
interviewed him.
You, of course you did. They tried to get him on Red Eye. I said
like,
no.
no.
I go, he's not on Red Eye ever, because I know it's gross.
And
it's
now he's a lefty.
Yeah, he's a lefty.
Works for
Now he's a
Salon.
lefty.
Yeah.
But he's actually a decent reporter. He like goes to Syria. He's like he's actually become somewhat of an individual.
So maybe these kids are going to turn out to be conservatives.
Just like you, Jesse.
That's just like me.
Those are little Jessies.
Listen, you know, these kids have bedtimes. They shouldn't be running U.S. industrial policy. They can't even play with matches. You know, and all of a sudden she's supposed to say, "Oh, you're right. Great point, Susie. Let me go tell my staff we're all going to die in 12 years." It's funny how she handled it. It's kind of like a grandparent during Thanksgiving when the grandchild comes home from college and they start talking about global warming, and the grandparent's like, "It's freezing. We're going to Naples in 2 weeks. What are you talking about?" So I think there's two things going on here. One, on the left, when you're wrong, you get promoted. For instance, Al Gore said all the polar ice caps were going to melt by 2014. Well, they're still there. And what's her name? AOC says the world's going to end in 2030, but I bet we wake up in 2030 and she's even more powerful. It's called failing up. And what's also happening in the Democratic Party, it's now split into three groups, Greg. You have the adults, and you have the children, and the adults pretending to be children in order to win the election. The adults are like the Schultzes and the Feinsteins that know the thing's a scam. The children are like the AOC and the Bernies that actually believe this stuff. And then you have the adults pretending to be children to get elected, like Booker and Feinstein, that know it can't work, but they pander to these people in order to get votes.
Yeah.
Well, let's throw to just one more piece of tape from that little meeting. This is my favorite part.
We're the people who voted you. You're supposed to listen to us. That's your
How old are you?
job.
How old
I'm
are you?
16. I
Well,
can't
you didn't vote for me.
Well, I'm 24.
It doesn't matter. We're the ones who can be impacted.
Reality check from Dianne.
Is that just somebody who's had it? I mean, you didn't vote for me, so get out of here.
Look, you're 16, you can't vote yet? Or are you one of my illegal voters in California? Maybe that was it. But Jesse, kids can't play with matches, at least those ones, because they emit carbon dioxide.
Oh, that's right.
And actually help, you know.
We are
promote the
anti-arson
Green Deal.
here.
But I can tell you, as a child who won a recycling art contest when I was like 9.
Oh, my God.
I can tell you this is all indoctrination. And AOC got on her YouTube or whatever, her live feed and was talking about how the world was going to end and we had to do something about it, which proves that these people believe in so much government that they think government is the only response to any of this, or we're all going to die. These predictions have made before. In 1970, Paul Ehrlich predicted that 65 million Americans were just going to die off as a result of the environment. Well, that never happened. And so this is indoctrination. It's a leftist group that came into her office with a special interest project. They used kids to do it. And I thought she reacted pretty well.
Juan, do you want? We've mentioned AOC. I try to keep our portions of AOC down to 5%. But Fox, they're all like, no, throw the AOC out there. This is her talking about like what you should do in an apocalyptic scenario that we're facing now. Sorry.
The issue's gotten worse. So I don't think that working on an issue for 30 years alone is what qualifies is what makes someone qualified to solve an issue. So it's basically like there's scientific consensus that the lives of children are going to be very difficult, and it does lead, I think, young people to have a legitimate question. You know, is it okay to still have children?
I agree with her, Juan.
I think you do.
You know I do.
Yes,
She is saying all of her peers don't have kids. I'm saying nobody, because kids just get in my way, Juan.
Is that right?
Yes.
And they emit greenhouse gases.
Oh, sometimes involuntarily.
Yes.
All over you.
Yeah. So, by the way,
diapers are
I
up.
think that some of the polarized caps are melting. I caution.
Well, he said they were all going to melt.
Yeah, but I just got to say,
they're polarized.
I think Greg was trying to save you guys because things like Turning Points USA, March Light, boy, a lot of young kids who are out there and used as the face of that conservative.
They're adults, Juan.
No, they're kids.
Adults in
I can
college.
tell you,
They're
a lot
not
of them are
10-year-olds.
high school and college kids, and they don't vote.
They're not 10-year-olds.
These are babies.
But let me just say,
These are babies.
No, I thought Senator Feinstein, who I have tremendous respect for, know her, like her very much, had an opportunity to engage those young people. Now, I must say, I spoke at a high school this
in a
morning,
realistic
and you know
forum.
what I said to them? I said, you guys don't vote. You don't give money. And that's what the senator was saying. You don't vote, you don't give money. But that's a
was
pretty
telling them it's
cynical
too
thing to say to
expensive.
young people who are becoming politically engaged, who are making a visit to Washington, a visit to their senator. She missed an opportunity.
I agree.
She knew it was a trap.
But
What's the trap? There's no
The trap is that you have a bunch of kids
No, you
there
talk to
reading
them.
rehearsed talking points. You have a grown adult standing right there. This happens all the time in schools. I worked at a school. You have an adult or a moderator or a dean or whatever it is, and they want their agenda pushed, so they hand kids a bunch of propaganda,
That's
and then the
fine.
kids repeat
Excuse
it.
me.
She knew it. She was standing there saying this is a big
If those
joke.
kids came to
Yeah.
you or to me, Jedediah,
Yeah.
I think we could hold on to our positions that had been worked through, but at the
That's
same
also
time,
edited,
hold
Juan.
on.
That's edited.
At the same time, make those young people feel special.
Juan,
And she didn't do that.
I would have said to those young people.
Those adults are lying to those kids and
Why are
Dianne
they
Feinstein
lying?
because they're telling them this is what we can do. It's totally reasonable, and she's the only adult who's actually told them the truth.
She's saying we can't pay for it.
Okay.
I disagree
for
with
it.
if you consider her truth.
And feelings are not
It's
the-
because her truth agrees with you, Kate.
No, you want to have this discussion on feelings, and she was being honest
No,
about the
I'm
cost.
just saying, young people, those kids, they should be told that it makes a difference. If you go
She
see your
said
elected
that. But
representative,
she said,
they will listen to you.
She said, I'm putting forth important climate legislation, but we can't pay for this. She doesn't want them to be
that's not true.
delusional.
That's
She's
right.
not-
They said the kids were going to be
delusional.
alive in 12 years. That's a bad thing?
No, that's a good thing.
Think
Because
about
that beats
telling your
Greg's
kids.
Greg said he doesn't want any kids.
no
think
more
about-
grandkids for you.
Think about
Juan.
what kind of parent tells their child, you're going to be dead in 12 years.
Right.
That's a great parent. The other thing, too, is I'll go. But I think that using kids is a way to avoid a real debate. If I put a kid up here in front of me, you don't give your best foot forward. You can't argue with a kid. So maybe every Democrat should bring a child up onto the debate stand. That would be great. Have the child. That'd be
Wait a second. You mean I can't bring Jesse to work anymore? Hey, I've been bringing you to work.
Good one.
I thought so.
on a leash, too.